Bulletcast for life.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon, and on today's episode we will be going over the Super Showdown that took place in Australia over the weekend, as well as NXT Mae Classic and Total Divas as always. But first, let's get into some wrestling news that happened over the weekend. So Pete Dunne apparently has suffered a, quote, severe injury according to an indie promotion that he was supposed to appear on. They had to announce on Facebook that he is not going to be on it because of a, quote, severe injury. Then they ended up taking that down and then just replacing it with just an injury. They said that WWE was going to announce it or talk more about it, and that has not happened yet. So, some bad news for Pete Dunne. If it is a severe injury, what does that entail? Is he going to be out for a long period of time? It seems like, as I've speculated on this show before, that they're going to go towards a War Games with him and Ricochet and the War Raiders going up against Undisputed Era in a 8-man War Games style match. If he is injured, I believe there's still one more NXT taping. I haven't really heard anything about when the next TV taping is, because if there has been a TV taping, I'd be hearing all the news or all the spoilers about what's going to happen for War Games in November. So that's going to be interesting to see what's going on with him holding the UK Championship. He doesn't need to drop it right away because they still have NXT UK shows taped in the can. So he doesn't exactly need to drop the title to, forward storylines or anything like that. But obviously, if it is like he blew out his knee, which I don't think it's that severe of an injury, because if he did do something that bad, I think we probably would have known something by now. But I don't know if severe is probably the right word. I think they might have overblown it. Maybe, a minor injury. Maybe he's out for a couple weeks, maybe a month. I don't think it's going to be anything super serious, but just got to keep an eye out on that and hopefully wish Pete Dunne a speedy recovery. So something that happened on Monday over in Japan on the New Japan show, Chris Jericho finally made it his long-awaited return. The first time he's been in New Japan since the Dominion show when he won the IC Championship from Naito. And we were all thinking he was going to set up a feud with Evil, because that's what they were teasing at Dominion. And he comes back. He dressed up as one of Evil's druids. Evil is coming out to wrestle Zack Sabre Jr., but the match was called off in a no contest because Jericho attacked him. And it looks like they're setting up that match. I do not believe that is going to be the match for the Tokyo Dome. I believe it's going to be sometime in November, maybe in December. I don't exactly know the New Japan lineup or the New Japan schedule in front of me. But big news, Jericho is coming back. And Jericho is announced, I just checked the Wrestling Observer website, it is announced for a Power Struggle that the Jericho will face Evil for the IWGP IC Championship, and that will be taking place, if I can find a date, on November 3rd. So there we go. So some other matches that have been announced. We have Jericho and Evil for the IC title, Tetsuya Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi versus Will Ospreay for the Never Openweight title, Tanahashi and David Finlay versus the Golden Lovers, Okada and Trent Beretta going up against Jay White and Bad Luck Fale, and then the finals of the Super Tag League, the Super Juniors Tag League, will occur on this Power Struggle show. So there you go. Jericho officially back. What will Jericho's next move be? I believe he's going to win this match against Evil. Will they set up a match on this show, or maybe some of the house shows coming up later? I believe they're probably going towards Jay White and Okada for the on Wrestle Kingdom, so I don't think he's going to go over after Okada. Zack Sabre Jr. said some things to Jericho about him, interfering in his match, and he flew all the way from Britain to Japan for a no contest. He was a little pissed off about that, so not exactly sure. Do they go back to the Naito match? Naito kind of seeming like the odd man out at this point. Tanahashi's going up against Omega for the championship. Jay White and Okada is doing their thing. So what is Naito doing? Do we just do a rematch with Jericho? We will have to stay tuned and find out about that. And so we talked about Pac coming back to Japan last week, and now we're talking about Jericho coming back to Japan this week. Some big names have been announced for the Smackdown 1000 show. Obviously, we talked about Evolution, and Rey Mysterio has been announced for SmackDown 1000 next week. I thought maybe they would hold off, maybe make that a surprise, but I think with SmackDown 1000, they haven't really built it up as big as Raw 1000 was, or even like Raw 25 this year. But they're now that it's kind of a lull period between the Super Showdown and the Evolution Crown Jewel event. Kind of SmackDown 1000 is kind of the big show they're aiming at right now, trying to pump a lot of stuff into that. And Big Show will be coming back to for the World Cup tournament in a qualifying match against Randy Orton, I believe. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I just talked about the WWE Super Showdown, and I'm not going to go over every little thing because that show is long enough as it is. I didn't actually watch everything. I just kind of watched the important things. So, I mean, obviously, at the gate, it's a glorified house show. That's kind of what we thought going in. It just kind of seemed like that. I know the time difference is a lot. 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific time. So a lot of these people either are just waking up to start their day or they're dead asleep because they've had a long road of travel and they don't wake up until, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Who knows what time they wake up, but I assume the time difference might have played a role, maybe just the travel, maybe knowing that, okay, this isn't like a pay-per-view. We're not here to do anything real special. We're just here to entertain the crowd. But that being said, let's just jump into it. They announced 70,000 people being there. I've heard some people say who are actually at the show that no, it was not 70,000. It was probably more like a little over 50,000. I don't know. I'm not in the whole thing of getting into numbers and what's the exact attendance, but that's what WWE does. They always boast up attendance when it's not really the exact number. So New Day in the bar. New Day ends up retaining. Not the best match they could have had. I think this is just kind of going to be something that we see throughout the show, just kind of around a 10 minute plus match, kind of going through the motions. Not the best we've ever seen from them. Not bad by any means, but just standard match. I thought maybe it could have been a little bit better, especially for being the opener. I thought they might have pulled out a little bit more stops, but it is what it is. Becky Lynch ends up retaining the championship, not by pinfall or submission, but because of disqualification. Charlotte she had Becky on the rope, she had her in the figure eight, and Becky just straight up took the belt and whacked Charlotte with the leg and got disqualified. So they're definitely still, portraying Becky Lynch as a heel, which is not a smart move on my thinking. They're still going forward with this whole Becky Charlotte face heel thing. I thought maybe they would just kind of go straight up. They're both baby faces, technically. I mean, obviously Becky is a little more hard, or I don't know, rigid, whatever the hell I'm trying to say right now. But Becky, has more attitude, and she might not be cheating like when they had their match at Hell in a Cell. I said like Becky wasn't cheating at all for the most part, except for like one little move she did. And Becky, I think she showed a little bit more heel tendencies in this match. Cole and Renee were definitely trying to put Becky over as a heel. So, I just don't understand why they keep fighting the crowd on this. I think in the end it's going to just hurt Charlotte. And if Charlotte is destined to face Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, will it be as hot of a match as it could be? I think right now people probably are wishing to see Becky versus Ronda Rousey at this point in Survivor Series. Last couple years they've been doing the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing. Do we get that? Maybe. I've heard some things on the internet saying that they're not actually going to be doing Raw versus SmackDown. Maybe 1 or 2 matches, but not the entire card like they've done in the past. So Elias and Kevin Owens are defeated by John Cena and Bobby Lashley, and the entire talk was Cena's hair. Yes, Cena has grown out his hair, either for a movie role or because he's getting a little self-conscious about his little bald spot up top. So I don't know if because it's longer, the bald spot is more pronounced, but Cena, he has hair now. And that was the talk of the town on Saturday. I saw a beautiful picture of Homer Simpson with hair, and it beautifully illustrated what John Cena looked like with his long hair. Cena barely did anything. Lashley was doing most of the work in this match, and Cena debuted his 6th move of doom, which is like some karate punch or something like that. It looked really stupid. Cena just going through the motions, maybe even worse than a lot of the other wrestlers are, and then he kind of he does a little, he doesn't do like a passionate promo at the end, he just kind of It's kind of weird seeing John Cena, who was all WWE for however long it's been, 15 years now, over 15 years, and now he's gone. He comes back for these big paydays. He's coming back for the Crown Jewel event. Maybe he comes back for SmackDown 1000, but I mean, it's just crazy to see how John Cena was, the poster boy for WWE, and everyone would say like, "Oh, look at Cena, how hard he works," and now he comes back and he does. It seems like he doesn't even really care, to be honest. So next up, we have the Iconics from Australia. They did not fight the crowd on this one. They just went straight up as sort of baby faces, even though they did work kind of heelish in the match. But they did not do the obvious route and have Peyton Royce and Billie Kay trash on Melbourne. And they ended up getting the victory. So that one of the definitely not the worst match of the show. We will get into that. But kind of a sloppy match, short match. Luckily, it didn't stay much past its welcome, and the Iconics get the victory. So, next up we have AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. AJ Styles retained. I thought this was a really good match. I felt like it dragged a little bit throughout. I think it went like maybe a little bit over 20 minutes. I think he could have shaved some time off. I felt like this way for a lot of the other matches, especially the main event. I felt like, we'll get into that. The AJ Styles retaining, especially with this match going on so early, I was wondering why they have this match on so early, because then if Samoa Joe won, then it would foreshadow that obviously Daniel Bryan would win. But with AJ winning, it could have made either guy a realistic chance at getting the victory. So I just don't understand why they had this match on so early. Match itself was good, dragged a little bit, and I thought AJ looked good. Tap out victory for Samoa Joe is emphatic. Definitely, this was definitely the blow off, I believe. And it's going to be interesting to see what Samoa Joe goes from here. We'll have to find out on SmackDown if they go in a different direction or if Samoa Joe is just not even on the show entirely. So Riot Squad goes up against Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins. They start off with a little bit of not a confrontation, but a discussion between Nikki and Ronda about who should start the match. They did it, and then they didn't really draw attention to it throughout the entire match, so that was nice subtlety from WWE. And then in the end, Ronda Rousey wins because Ronda Rousey should win. No turn. And we kind of saw at the very end why they would not turn, because you don't want to have... Well, we saw this on Raw. We saw multiple heel turns on Raw. But we do not get the multiple heel turns here because we want to save that for the end of the match, or the end of the show, because that's when it all matters, when Triple H is in the ring. And The Undertaker. So next up, we have the Cruiserweight Championship match between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, being the hometown boy from Australia, gets the victory, and this probably... Is this the best match of the show? Maybe. I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. They only got 10 minutes, so they didn't exactly tell the best story. AJ and Samoa Joe definitely told a better story, but this match was flying all over the place, high spots. Not a spot fest by any means, but just a good athletic 10-minute contest. Crowd popped huge for Buddy Murphy winning the Cruiserweight Championship. Big spot, big moment in not only Buddy Murphy's career, but in WWE. I mean, you get the big hometown pop and a good moment. Good moment for them. Definitely, I would say, out of all the matches, probably watch this one just because it's short, it's athletic, and it has the big moment at the end. So we have Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler losing to the Shield in a 20-plus minute match. This match was probably what you would see. I mean, we ended up seeing it again on Raw, but obviously I got the pick wrong, so that's why I'm not your current Bulletcast champion. This is one of the reasons why I lost, but I don't know exactly. I mean, it's, as I said, it was kind of a glorified house show, so let the baby faces get the victory, let the crowd go home happy, and I mean, it was kind of a slow-paced match with just a lot of big moments, big spots, but in between not a whole lot of action. So, yeah, that was it. And then we have Daniel Bryan and The Miz in a really short match. Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale. Daniel Bryan gets the roll-up for the victory in very short amount of time. Very weird. I mean, I'm all for having short matches, having matches end during commercials, having different spots where you don't exactly think they're going to win, but they ended up winning because it's a sport. It's a simulated sport. So you would think that there's some times where the person wins out of nowhere. but I would have to say this wasn't the right time and place. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say in the main event of WrestleMania, and by no means is this match on the same level as that, but in a pretty big match, second to last match on the show, everyone knows that Undertaker and Triple H is not going to be the greatest match ever. So everyone's looking forward to Miz and Daniel Bryan. It's going to be a really good match. It's going to be intense. They've had the storyline behind it, and then just out of nowhere, Daniel Bryan rolls up Miz for the quick 3 count. I mean, I would feel like this would be better set if you did this on a Smackdown than on a not Crown Jewel, on a Super Showdown where it's kind of a big deal. It's a pay-per-view basically. And just out of nowhere, the Daniel Bryan gets the victory, and then it also just makes me doesn't make me angry, but it's just like, okay, so you give the Miz and Daniel Bryan like 5 minutes with the ring entrances, and then you give Triple H and Undertaker damn near an hour for all their shit, and then like the match, it was terrible. Triple H faces Undertaker. Triple H ends up winning in God knows how long this match was, like 20 plus minutes. It did not need to go this long. He could have shaved 10 minutes off of this. Could have shaved 5 minutes off of AJ Samoa Joe and gave that time to Miz and Daniel Bryan. Like this match, it was bad. It was really bad. It was just really slow and plodding. Undertaker, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, it ruins the Undertaker's career, but I mean, the last time he had the really good matches with Brock and at SummerSlam and Hell in a Cell, I think was an okay match. But ever since then, I mean, he had the match with John Cena, and that was basically a squash match and a sprint where all you see is Undertaker's big moves. So he wasn't as exploited for how little he can do. And Triple H has always kind of had the reputation of wanting to have these epic length matches, and he's not delivering because he's slow and plodded, and he's all about psychology and milking the moment. But when you milk the moment when there's no heat and it's not a really athletic match, I mean, the last great match Triple H had, I mean, I would say the Sting match was a great match. I mean, I was there live. It was a spectacle. It was fun to see, but by no means was that like a fantastic match. It was just it was fun for kind of all the wrong reasons, because you had DX and NWO out there just going back and forth, and then you had the whole thing of why is the NWO backing Sting when Sting was like their number one enemy back in the day, but that's beside the fact. Triple H's last great match, I mean, is it that Undertaker match at WrestleMania 28 in Hell in a Cell? That was, let's see, we're going on 35, so that's almost 7 years, 6.5 years since Triple H's like last fantastic match, unless there's something I'm missing, which I might be. There might be some other match that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but that's definitely the match that comes to mind as a great Triple H Undertaker match, and this definitely was not it. This was kind of like the people who think they're a lot better than they actually are. Do I blame it on the Undertaker? I don't think the Undertaker wants to go out there and have a 20-minute match. I think he just kind of wants to go out there, hit his big spots, get his payday, and leave. I think I would probably put more of this on Triple H, to be honest, just because Triple H wants to have those big career moments. He wins in Australia against the Undertaker in an epic 25-30-minute match, and anybody who was there or watched it knows that was anything but. So they set up. I mean, Kane barely did anything. He took a table spot and took a nap for like 10 minutes. Shawn Michaels probably took the most bumps out of anybody. And they have the whole no disqualification thing, so that basically sets up that, okay, it's basically a tornado tag match at this point. And Shawn Michaels helps Triple H with the victory with some sweet chin music, sledgehammer shot, and Triple H ends up getting the victory. They do the whole, we love each other, this is a great moment. They all raise each other's hands. And then the Brothers of Destruction turn on DX, and this sets up the tag team match for Crown Jewel that we were all waiting for. And by now you've probably seen on Raw that DX is together, and the match is announced for Crown Jewel. So, in the end, a 4-hour show, practically on the dot. I mean, it's kind of hard to grade the show, because would I say it's a thumbs up? Maybe. I mean, it's just a lot of like 10-minute matches. They're in and out. They kind of go through the motions. Nothing's really spectacular except for the Cruiserweight match. The Cruiserweight match is probably the best match. AJ Samoa Joe was really good. So probably those are the only two matches you need to see. I would say if you haven't seen them by now, but by this point you probably know what's going on. And let's just go into NXT and Mae Young. These happened last Wednesday, so just before the new episodes come out. So on NXT, before the show opens, we had Nikki Cross shown in a smoky room talking to herself like a crazy person, because we all know Nikki Cross is crazy. And she talked about playing games with people like Bianca Belair, and then she talked about people not behaving good, and then she said she knows, and she went on she knows who attacked Aleister Black and blah 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 blah. So then that kicked off the NXT video package. I mean, I've kind of talked about it in the past. I think Nikki's kind of lost a little bit of her luster. I think she's kind of being like cute crazy. She's not being like, scary crazy like she was in the past. So it is what it is. They have Candice LeRae going up against Lacey Evans, and Lacey Evans ends up defeating Candice LeRae in 6 minutes and 18 seconds. I thought this was a really good match. The story of it was Candice was kind of hanging in there with Lacey, and then Candice kind of had Lacey on her heels. And then Lacey said that she's a failure like her husband, and then that just set off Candice just attacking her in the corner, just almost getting disqualified. And Candice just kind of being too aggressive, and then in the end, Lacey Evans hits her with the woman's right for the victory. They've really been putting over the woman's right as a finisher. I'm not the big fan of punches as finishers because I think it just makes it way too fake. But if you're going to do it, I think they're doing it probably the best way you can. So next up, we had Adam Cole, Ricochet, and Pete Dunne promoting their match for the NXT North American Championship that is taken on next week or this week, I would say, tomorrow, in a triple threat match. They was all individually they'd had sit down interviews, kind of each talking about their outlook on it. Adam Cole saying that he's the first one, he's going to be the first and last North American champion. Ricochet talking about how he wants to add prestige to the championship. He wants to defend it all over the world. And Pete Dunne talking about how he already has one championship and he wants to be the champion of 2 continents, even though the United Kingdom is not a continent. But I understand what he was talking about. So, just good, simple promo work by all these guys. Definitely, there's a lot of video packages and a lot of wrestling. Not a whole lot of promos in the ring. So, next up, we had the Forgotten Sons. And they were going to wrestle. They had a little kind of vignette type thing. Tommaso Ciampa cut one of his promos, and he talked about how people try to steal the spotlight, and he said that people are trying to accuse him of attacking Aleister Black, and Ciampa targeted Velveteen Dream. He said that both he and Dream knew what Aleister Black experienced. Ciampa told Dream to be careful and keep his accusations to himself and stay out of the champ's spotlight. Ciampa talking about exposing Black's mystique, and if Dream isn't careful, the Dream will become a nightmare. So, the Forgotten Sons take on some jobbers, and they win in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Just a simple 6-man tag squash match. Nothing really to be seen here. Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane, they talked about their match, how this match was set up. And then we have Shayna Baszler in a vignette kind of at her MMA training facility. She talked about how she has had training camps, and training camps are nothing compared to what any of the other women have experienced before. And she talked about how back at the Mae Young Classic, she was different. She kind of, she was maybe underestimated Kairi a little bit, but now she knows what she's getting into. So just good, simple, sports-like build for this match. Kathy Kelly interviewed Tony Nese before his match with Johnny Gargano. And Tony Nese just kind of talked about how he proved himself as the premier athlete in 205 Live. He's coming down here and he's going to prove it again, and he has 8 reasons why, and that is his abs. Kathy Kelly, they go to commercial, then they come back, and Kathy Kelly is interviewing Bianca Belair about Nikki Cross wanting to play with her. Just simple stuff from Belair, just kind of boasting and talking about how she is the EST of NXT and how she is undefeated. So, good promos by both of those people. Then Johnny Gargano makes his ring entrance against Tony Nese, and Johnny Gargano ends up getting the victory over Tony Nese with his Gargano Escape submission. Really good match. The exact time, only 9 minutes 43 seconds, so sub 10 minutes, but really good match back and forth. I really hope they continue Tony Nese on NXT, or even just in general having some people come down here. I think it's a good idea to have people come down for NXT TV tapings, give them a weekend, or get them off of TV for a little bit, and then just have them come down, do some NXT tapings, and give them, they're still on TV for a month, but they're not on the road for a month. They do their spots, they do their 2 matches or a promo segment here and there, and they get a nice little break, and they end up to, especially, I mean, you're not going to do these with like the really top guys, but you can do them with kind of lower card guys. Bring back Ty Dillinger, bring back, I don't know, Dana Brooke, or some other like lower to mid card people who you can have an explanation for them wanting to come down to NXT, maybe regain their craft or get their mojo back, or you can end up doing like some of a bigger name. You can do a Cesaro or a Sami Zayn. I mean, like if Sami Zayn were to come back before before he comes back to WWE, I think that'd be a big deal, even though I don't think they would want to waste that comeback on NXT, but I think Triple H would love that comeback. So, yeah, just a good match. I think this definitely built up Johnny Gargano. The crowd was behind him. They were kind of doing the whole Johnny failure thing in the beginning, but in the end, they ended up coming back around and cheering Johnny. I think this worked a lot better if it wasn't a squash, or if this was a squash match. I think having him go back and forth. Tony Nese, he has the credibility of being on 205 Live. He was on the Cruiserweight Classic, so a good win for Johnny, and it's a whole lot better for him to gain momentum than him just having a regular squash match. So good on that. Another video package with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. They were seated. They were just talking about how they became tag team partners, and their match at NXT TakeOver Chicago, where the crowd was not behind them. They wanted Undisputed Era to win, but then they ended up gaining the crowd's respect, and that was one of the highlights of their career. And they talked about Lorcan breaking his orbital bone thanks to Roderick Strong's knee. And so now they're coming back. Burch said they're just a couple of average blokes, and their goal is to become champion. So now Lorcan and Burch are coming back with a vengeance to be NXT Tag Team Champions. Just another simple, straight up video package. I thought it did their job well. So then in the main event, EC3 and Lars Sullivan only wrestled for 6 minutes and 44 seconds, with Lars Sullivan getting the victory. I thought this was a great match for what it was. This is probably one of EC3's better matches. It was a really fast-paced physical match, which is probably what you want out of these two guys. They're not going to go out there like Tony Nese and Johnny Gargano and just have a classic athletic match. And this was just really physical. EC3 kind of started off hot. He was pushing Lars into the steel steps, and he ended up like cutting Sullivan's back or kind of scraping it with the metal. So it looked really vicious. EC3 had he was on top of Lars Sullivan for a little while, but then Sullivan finally made his comeback. Beat up EC3 for a little bit, and ended up going to the top rope for a headbutt, which I am not a fan of. Ask Dana Bryan, ask Harley Race about the top rope diving headbutt. Not a good thing for concussions, your neck, etc. But Lars Sullivan gets the victory with it. So that was good. EC3 was seen bleeding from the mouth, so just another visual about how hard-hitting this match was. So kind of a surprise match. I'm not going to say it was match of the night. Definitely Gargano and Nese was that. But all these matches, I think, did their job in their way. I thought this match was a really good show. It just was a nice paced show with a lot of wrestling, a lot of video packages. It kind of, went package, it went match, package, some promos here and there. Not a whole lot of storyline forwarding stuff. I mean, I still think they're going to go with EC3 and Lars Sullivan, maybe a match or two. I don't know if it's going to be on the War Games pay-per-view. But I think Candice LeRae losing, I don't think it hurt her all that much. Lacey Evans, I've talked about in the past, about how she's kind of the second heel, maybe even third behind Bianca Belair in the women's division. So I think they're really high on Lacey Evans, and Candice LeRae can afford a loss, and eventually she's got to get on the horse and do something. So her and Johnny are kind of like in the same boat. Johnny's kind of got out of the funk and trying to get his way up. Candice still might be a little bit in the funk, and now hopefully after this loss she can kind of see her way through. Candice LeRae was in last year's Mae Young Classic, but we are going to talk about this year's Mae Young Classic, the first matches in the second round. So we kick off with Toni Storm and Hiroyo Matsumoto. Really good match, hard hitting. Toni Storm ends up getting the victory with a a roll through bridge for the victory. That was good, hard hitting match. Matsumoto hit her finisher, but Storm was able to get her foot on the rope to break it up, and then Matsumoto still continued to work over Storm, and that's when she was able to roll up for the victory. I thought Michael Cole just kind of missed the boat on the psychology of it. He said, "Oh, once Toni Storm got put the foot on the ropes after the finisher, then Matsumoto, or the momentum changed for Toni Storm," and I just didn't feel like that was the case, because right after Storm put her foot on the rope, Matsumoto still continued to dominate Storm, and then Storm just kind of did the last minute, Hail Mary roll up for the victory. And I just thought Cole just completely missed the boat on that, when the story, no, she wasn't. The momentum was not Toni Storm's favor. Toni Storm was getting her ass beat for the last 5 minutes of the match, and she just barely won with the roll up. So that was Michael Cole. He's been kind of on and off lately. I mean, he has his good moments. He definitely is not as restricted. I would say he's much more open about talking about wrestling and wrestling history. He's had his goofs, his gaffes. He said something about some arena, some place in Mexico is like MSG in Mexico, when it's no, I'm pretty sure Arena Mexico is like the MSG of Mexico, but whatever. But probably one of the dumbest things Michael Cole has ever said, maybe in this tournament, maybe in his career, was he said that Rhea Ripley is one of the most athletic women in the tournament when she is facing against Casey Catanzaro, who is the former American Ninja Warrior, who is one of the best women ninja warriors of all time. And I'm pretty sure Catanzaro is a better all-around athlete than Rhea Ripley. No knock on Rhea, just Casey is, something special. And Casey, only 5 feet tall, 100 pounds. Rhea Ripley, don't exactly know what her real height is, because Casey's so small, she makes everybody else look so big. So Rhea's probably, 5'8", 5'9", but she just looks like a complete monster going up against Casey. And this match was different than all the other matches. I think all the matches were kind of different in their own special way. Casey was kind of definitely playing the underdog, kind of Rey Mysterio Big Show type match, kind of what she did last time. But this time she was not able to get the victory. Rhea Ripley gets the win, and I thought this match was good. I thought Casey botched a couple moves, and I mean, it's kind of to be expected. She doesn't have the ring. She hasn't been in the ring all that much, so she heavily relies on high-paced, high-flying moves, bouncing off the ropes, doing other things. She messed up a head scissors. She messed up she would jump over the rope onto the top rope, then she'd bounce on the second rope for the whatever Hurricane Rana or whatever the hell move she does. The crowd was definitely behind Casey during the match. She went for a Hurricane Rana, but Rhea blocked it and hit the Riptide Powerbomb for the win. Thought it was a good match. Rhea definitely is being edgy. One of the top people in the tournament. I think Casey definitely has a future in wrestling. I think her being on NXT should be fun. I mean, her and Candice. Candice is kind of already has the small underdog role on NXT, so maybe they want to wait a little bit until Candice gets called up, or Candice is already on top, and by the time Casey finally makes it to the top, Candice is already out. But Casey's a big name, and I think they have some big plans for her. So then next up we had by far the worst match of the show. That's not any knock on them, it's just all the other matches were really good. But Lacey Lane against Tainara Conti. Conti is the Brazilian judo wrestler, and then Lacey Lane is a African American woman with great dreads, and she is from the Florida area, so she had a lot of family members in the crowd. And this match was not very long, thank God. Lacey Lane ends up getting the victory, short and sweet, very fast paced, and that's basically what you want, because Conti showed in the last match not the best wrestler in the world. So they kind of just got in and out, right person won. and I can't knock it. So it's kind of like what Undertaker and Triple H should have been. Just get in, get out. Obviously, I wouldn't expect Triple H and Undertaker to go under 5 minutes, but you catch my drift. So in the main event, we had Mercedes Martinez going up against Maiko. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher her name. Miko Satomura. I'm just gonna say Satomura. It's a lot easier name to say. So two veterans in the wrestling business going back and forth. Very technical match. And Satomura ends up getting the victory here. Just these two veterans putting on a wrestling clinic. Is it the best match of the show? I think it's probably it's probably a better match than what Toni Storm and the other Japanese woman that I am forgetting her name already. Matsumoto. See, Matsumoto and Satomura. Very close names. Easy to mix them up. But Satomura ends up getting the victory. You know, she's been in the business for a long time. They promoted her. She was on WCW Nitro, for God's sakes. And the Mae Young Classic just keeps getting better and better in terms of matches, and that's exactly what we would expect. The lone match that wasn't that great was the Lane Conti match, but I mean, all the other matches did their job very well. Casey Catanzaro kind of messed up a little things, but she definitely has the crowd behind her. She's, spunky underdog, and the future's bright for her. So, next up we have the Total Divas review. So, this one was not the most eventful episode in the world. All it was... So, sometimes I put over Total Divas, but this one was a little hard to watch just because it was the same day as the A's losing to the Yankees, getting their ass beat 7-2. So I put on Total Divas, hoping that it was going to cheer me up. It did a little bit just because of the Lana Rusev storyline, but the two main storylines was that Naomi and whatever the Usos name is, he's trying to get healthy. Naomi wants to eat some candy and wants to live her best life. And so they get some bees, and they want to make some fresh honey and some other stuff like that. But I mean, the only thing that's worth watching is the Lana Rusev storyline, where Lana is so they have a movie coming out that I guess Lana produced. Rusev's in a little bit. I know she promoted on Instagram and stuff like that, and they want to do a publicity stunt to get some views. They want to get some clickbait for the show. So if y'all remember back when Rusev was going to face the Undertaker at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, they had the interview with him and Lana. He talked about how Undertaker's an old man, and that was actually the same interview that we saw in Total Divas that Rusev was talking about that, but he was also talking about the movie that they're doing, and they ended up cutting out all the stuff they talked about the movie and just put what he said about The Undertaker. So now Lana and Rusev need to do another publicity stunt, and so they want to do a fake nude photo shoot where they're all wearing nude-colored bathing suits, and they look like they're having sex on the beach, and they do it. They blur out they pixelate the crotch region, the goodies, you might say. And I don't know how it gets leaked on the internet. I don't know where they send those photos to put them on the dirty websites. But then they get called into the principal's office, Mark Carrano, who always kind of gives me some creepy vibes. Just saying. And then, especially when it comes to like sex stuff like this, he always kind of creeps me out when he has to talk to the women about this stuff. And they get a little slap on the wrist. Lana says we're going to never do it again. And Rusev is fantastic. He's kind of like the Dean Ambrose or the Dana Bryan, I would say. He's just kind of along for the ride with his wife, and they do dumb shit, and they just say dumb shit back, and it's entertaining for what it is. So, maybe not the most eventful Total Divas episodes in the world, but it's okay. There's a lot of other stuff you can watch. There's a lot of good wrestling out there. Like New Japan, Raw, Smackdown is okay. NXT on their way to the War Games, and Mae Young Classic, it's getting there. Got the next batch of second round matches coming up tomorrow, and then we jump into the quarterfinals and the semifinals. And next thing you know, we're at Evolution for the finals. So thank you guys very much for watching. My name is Brandon. This has been Under the Radar. Make sure to to follow the Bulletcast on Twitter, Instagram. Email us at bulletcast2sweet, that is the number 2sweet, at gmail.com. So bulletcast2sweet at gmail.com. Email us questions. As I said last week, it doesn't even have to be wrestling related. It can be whatever your little heart desires. If you want us to talk about, the political system, if you want to talk about sports, music, anything you want, just ask us, and I'm pretty sure we're going to answer it. I'm not in charge of the mailbag, Philip is, so if you send a question in and it doesn't get read on the podcast, don't bitch at me, bitch at Philip. It's not my fault. I'm the good guy here. You can also comment or DM us on Twitter and Instagram if you want to have a specific question. I know the Bulletcast Instagram posts regularly about stuff, so if you want, you can just comment anything on that and it'll be picked up. So, until next time, goodbye and good night. Bang!